I do not believe the conditions that produced a situation that demanded a song like that. Come on, clap, damn it. What's wrong with you?
Hello everyone and welcome to session 3 of the Global Black Feminist Reading Circle. My name is Randy Henderson and I am one of the Black Feminist Reading Circle members of this online group. This session runs from January 20th until June 2nd and includes 2 week-long breaks. Our democratically selected reading material is Harriet A. Washington's book, Medical Apartheid, The Dark History of Medical Experimentation on Black Americans from Colonial Times to the Present. Our book group meets each Tuesday evening from 6:30 to 8 on the Google Plus Hangouts on Air platform. You may find the Global Black Feminist Reader Circle on Google Plus, YouTube, and Facebook, and always feel free to join us in reading our story together.
I'm tonight's moderator, Georgette Moses from Columbia, South Carolina. Let's go around and everyone introduce themselves.
Hi, my name is Edwina Marchenko. I'm happy to be here. Well, I'm located here in Utah now.
Hello, I'm Randy and I'm viewing from Atlanta, and I'm really excited to see everybody tonight, and I'm happy that I'm on time for like the first time in months, so this is really nice.
All right. Excellent.
Good evening. My name is Neil Walker, and I'm joining from Connecticut. Welcome.
Thank you, Benita.
My name is Joel J.J. Jones from Charleston, South Carolina. Uh, and just glad to be here amongst the living, not the dead.
All right. Can't argue with that. Thank you, Joel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Odom, and I'm in Brooklyn, New York.
We can get started on Chapter 8, The Black Stork, the Eugenic Control of African American Reproduction.
The Black Stork, the eugenic control of African American reproduction. This chapter illustrates the various ways the reproductive freedom of African Americans have been assaulted by discouraging the birth of inferior Black children and by curtailing the fertility of Black mothers. Americans of various backgrounds and
Allegiances.
allegiances participated in this eugenics movement. Germans and Americans shared their flawed eugenics practice and beliefs, many of them evolving into current laws and social, economic, and medical policies today. Many women and men have been harmed by these codified beliefs with no compensation. Some of our own Black leaders were complicit in this. We still live with the false specter of the crack baby, stigmatized teenage girls as hypersexual, and chose to punish and medicate rather than counsel and protect.
Okay. Thank you, Vanita.
By 1962, the National Urban League and many local NAACP chapters rescinded their support of contraception, suspicious of so many federally financed birth control clinics in their neighborhoods as attempts to discover the best way to limit or even erase the Black presence in America. The 1967 Black Power Conference in New York, New Jersey passed a resolution that equated birth control with Black genocide. They found support in the 1948 United Nations resolution concerning the prevention and punishment of the crime of genocide that was a reaction to the Nazi-engineered European Holocaust. Although at least 40% of Black by 1972 believed birth control clinics were a tool to eradicate them, something strange had happened. Many Black women embraced birth control while Black men denounced it. In the words of Urella Brown, a Black social worker, Negroes don't want children they can't take care of, but we are afraid to trust you when your offered help has so often turned out to be exploitation. Despite these fears, 87% of surveyed Blacks approved of public contraceptive clinics, but 47% rejected sterilization. Washington states that the proliferation of these birth control clinics clearly aimed at African American populations falls within United Nations definitions for genocide crimes. The clinics were numerous, intended to selectively reduce births within the group, and were well funded at a time when health advocates failed to address more pressing issues in the African American community like nutrition, infectious disease control, high infant mortality, etc. She then makes what seems to be a 180-degree turn, saying that although the proliferation of these clinics was unethical, their rise did not constitute genocide because such measures were widely embraced by Black women who welcomed contraceptive choice. Is this evidence of victim blaming? What do you think?
She proposed that the clinics were a form of genocide, and then she changed her mind. What is? I was perplexed myself. Go
I
ahead,
didn't.
Ray.
I didn't read it as her changing her mind. Maybe I read it wrong. Maybe I have to go back and read that passage. But
I didn't either, Randy.
I thought that she read it like. I mean, I thought she meant it like because black women had come forward and wanted contraception, that in that way it wasn't genocide, and that's why the clinics kept, they were able to stay in business in terms of that aspect of it, because black women didn't, like she mentioned something else about like sexual liberation, being able to practice sex without it always ended in procreation. So
right, and technically, the proliferation of clinics in black neighborhoods technically did fit the UN definition of genocide. But in as much as black women themselves embraced birth control, then we couldn't really call it genocide at the same time. That's how I took it, Georgette.
that's how I read it too. Yeah.
Okay.
And then she goes on to say, but there are other things that fit the definition of genocide, and really you can't call them anything else because they were done without our knowledge or consent, like forced sterilizations or being used as a part of experimentation for different methods of birth control.
Yeah.
Well, I look at it this way. Um,
I can't see your face.
I look at it this way. It all ends. They have these clinics in targeted and poor white neighborhoods. If the intent was to reduce the population, if the intent was to reduce the population, then in my opinion it is genocide. They didn't just have a health clinic there. It was strictly put there to reduce, the rate of births, and to reduce the population. So in my opinion it is a form of genocide. They say contraception, but is that a broad ban? Is that a broad term? Does that mean abortions as well? That's a form of contraception. It depends upon how they're using that definition. So I believe it is a form of if they didn't do the same thing in other neighborhoods, and it's just basically to just spade them, neuter them, and control the population, reduce the population. In my opinion, it's a genocide.
Well, I think they did do what I think it had a lot to do also with classism, like somebody said, because when she talks about the Mississippi epidectomy, even though I know that's our next question, they talk about Carrie Buck for the Buck v. Bell decision, and she was a poor white girl.
Right,
So
a lot of white women were sterilized.
I do agree sterilization is a form of genocide. I do agree with that, but I don't know. I mean, personally, my mom has always been an advocate for birth control, probably because she had us so young, and so she got on birth control after my sister and got off of it and had Keon and hasn't looked back since, so we've just always been, to have that option there is a blessing, but also recognizing that white people and black doctors and the church have deceived us into using birth control as a form of sterilization is wrong. So I do agree with that. It's to me, I think this section was complicated, especially because even now, so many women use birth control not just for sex reasons, but because people have heavy cycles. Some birth controls help with cysts. I know that's the case in my family. It keeps them, underway. A lot of my family members, they stay on their cycles for months on end if they're not on birth control.
Whoa.
So it helps them regulate it. So I don't know, maybe now they fixed it so where it's not so.
Is any men living in your family? Women staying on cycle? You probably killed every damn body.
Yeah, no. We have men. Yeah. No, really. We do. We do. But yeah,
Well, I'm an advocate too, Randy, for birth control, and so was my mother, who, like yours, when when she realized that I was having sex, um, she said, this is not what I want you to do, but I know I can't stop you. So if it's what you're gonna do, then you need to get down to the clinic and get some birth control. And but I realized through reading this chapter that I was a part of that population that was targeted. Um, uh, I was living in Trenton, New Jersey, moderately urban area, um, during those years, during my teens, and there was a Planned Parenthood, and that's and that's where I went, and I was on the Depo Provera. Um, During that era that Washington is talking about.
Wow.
you know, um, and I took it for about 10 years because I did not want to have any babies at that point. And and it worked. And but I was always nervous about it because I realized that we were the test generation for the pill. I knew that there was no way that they could know what the long-term effects were going to be on people because we were the ones that were going to provide that information.
Apparently, it worked for me. I had 5.
You took the
I
pill?
had 5 babies.
Did you take the pill?
But yes, while I was growing up and going to college and so forth, the pill was readily available, and everywhere you went, even on a college campus, clinics, condoms were readily available. So even after I had my babies, and I was going to Planned Parenthood for gynecological examinations, GYN, OBN examinations. They made it. I would always get this talk after the examination. The doctor would always like to have a sit down with me and talk about my attitude towards contraception.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, but I was thinking, I don't remember anybody having much of a talk with me, and I certainly don't remember anybody asking me if I wanted to be a part of a medical experiment, you know. But after taking the pills for about 10 years, I just started getting so afraid myself that I didn't know, what I was doing. And so I stopped, and shortly thereafter I got pregnant. So they were effective, if nothing else, at at reducing the number of births. And yeah, I mean, you can call it genocide, Joel. And it probably is. There definitely would be a whole lot more black babies if black women had not embraced birth control. But the problem that I have is there's so many people that want to tell black women, we've had black men, we've had white men, we've had white women, We've had everybody trying to tell black women what they can and should do with their bodies. And but none of y'all are talking about how we're going to take care of those babies. And so to me, unless we are simultaneously having the conversation about genocide, birth control, and how we're going to take care of the babies, then I can't even hear the black man's concern about genocide. Black people, our African heritage is raising children in a communal environment. Child rearing, especially in this highly competitive, cold, cruel world that we're living in, is such a demanding responsibility that for black people in particular, if we're not talking about communal approaches to child raising, then we're really not talking about nothing. We're really talking about masses of children that are not getting the basics of what they need to be fully functioning, whole, healthy human beings in the world as it is today. And so it may be genocide to use birth control, but we are making choices between bringing children into a world without the supports that they need, or not bringing them in at all. Last week I was talking about courage. And a part of the thing is, if we don't have the courage or the capacity or the self-respect or whatever it is we're missing to address our problems as a community and find some real solutions, then we are just talking about bringing more and more babies into the world where they can be shot down by any police or neighborhood watchman or whoever has the notion. More and more babies into the world to go through the school to prison pipeline with no hope of any other kind of life. And, at some point, I think common sense demands that we ask ourselves, what is the point of that? If we're not going to solve our problems that exist in the world, why would we be bringing more babies into the world for lives of misery? I don't know.
Well, that certainly gives us something to think about. Ooh. And I think it's important that we're able to take something that's meant for our detriment and turn it into something useful in the ways that Edwina and Randy and Michelle explained it affected their lives. And hey, they meant it for our evil, but we can turn it into something good.